Alas, the tear-making trilogy has come to a close.
ShinRobjira.
Just kidding, I'm probably going to be making a truck ton more of these. What's going on there, friends and neighbors? I am ShinRobjira, and today we are going to be ranking all of the NECA Godzilla releases, and unreleased or majorly altered prototypes of releases. As always, these are just my opinions. It's perfectly fine if you disagree with me. I don't have no hard feelings towards y'all. And with that being said, let's just get started. So up first is NECA Godzilla 1954, which at the time of its original release definitely was the best NECA Godzilla figure out there. Everything to how it was painted to the major articulation that it had, it definitely utilized NECA's at the time strengths with Godzilla. But over the years and after many releases to come after it, it definitely did sour, especially compared to another version of 1954 that would come out a little bit later. I definitely wouldn't say that it's one of the best at this point, but I will absolutely say that it's a great figure. It's not going to stay at that point though. And up next we have the 1956 poster version of 1954, and y'all know me, I love me a good color palette. I love when it's wild and weird and really artistic. And much like his 1954 counterpart, I would put him in great as well, except I would put him before the original release. When it comes to the breath effect piece that came with it, the little standee that you can actually have the figure on to mirror that of the poster, it was just a really fun and cool release from NECA. My copy had a couple issues with the hand especially, which I still haven't been able to get to move. But in all honesty, it's a great figure and I would recommend it to just about anybody. That being said, V2 Godzilla 1954. I unfortunately did not get the poster box version of this, but I do in fact have this figure, and I do in fact think that when it comes to the reissuing that they did, when it comes to the reworking of the dorsal plates and the paint job especially, V2 1954 Goji, best. Easily one of NECA's best. Moving on to 190 Goj. Gonna be showing a little bit of my biases here, but this guy, good old King Goji over here, I think that's one of NECA's very best releases. I don't actually believe any of NECA's Godzilla figures that released after this even come close to this chunky, magnificent boy. I still feel the exact same way about it as I did upon release all those years back. Alrighty, and up next is 1964 Goji, and holy Christ, my version of this figure is still as stiff as they come. I have to soak this guy and I have to heat him up just to get him in a different pose. I don't know what's going on there, NECA, but I would prefer an overly stiff figure that I have to warm up to move over an overly loose figure. I enjoy how the figure looks. He's not wholly accurate, but honestly, when it comes down to things, I still think it's a very prime release. The only thing I really dislike about this figure is just the atomic breath, the heat ray. It really doesn't sit in his mouth too well, and if I have the heat ray hanging out of his mouth off the edge of my shelf, guaranteed I'm going to come back into my office and it's going to be on the floor. I would definitely put this guy in great. He's a great figure. Proto 1984 Goji. For those who were around in the fandom at the time of this figure's release, well, unveiling, you all know that the fans kinda really chewed NECA out for this because, fam, that don't look nothing like 84 Goji. Not in the slightest dog. That head was much too small, those teeth were ridiculous. He looked like a friggin' chipmunk. And, I'll be honest, I still would have loved to own this though. It's just so bad. It's just, no. That would have been atrocious, but you know, the charm of it being so bad, mainly just in the head and still kind of the legs. I can see why people don't like the legs on this figure. They're a little wonky. I love the way this Proto looks, and I had to include the Proto here simply for the fact that I love how much of a meme it is. And obviously it was never officially released, so that's gonna go in did not buy. I know I didn't do the did not buy first. It's just we have a lot to go through, so I'm not going to putz about. And up next we have the official release of 84 Goji, the one with the very thin dorsal fins and the weird glossy paint job and everything. Overall, when it comes to like the dorsal fins, it's not my favorite figure, but when it comes to being an 84/85 Godzilla figure, I was happy to have him in my collection. But when it comes to that paint and those dorsal fins, I'm gonna have to toss my boy in meh. Because his retooled variant, however, definitely a lot better. Those dorsal fins, perfect. I do wish NECA would have done a little bit more with the legs and the feet, and I do kind of wish that they redid the tail a little bit as well, because the bendy wire tails almost feel too small. I hope that makes sense to all of you. They just feel a little flimsy in comparison to the design in which they are helping represent. I wouldn't in any way call this a meh or a not good figure. I am going to put him at high tier decent. A good retooling job for sure. Speaking of which, we see the 84 mold yet again used as the NES Godzilla. Now you see that there's two here. I was aware that this figure was reissued. I absolutely was. But the one thing I was not aware of when it came to the reissue is just the fact that it had new dorsal fins on the side of his back, and I know he had hinges at the wrist, but apparently the color was a bit different as well, just going off what people are telling me. So when it comes to the reissue, obviously I'm going to put it in did not buy, but I am wholly regretting it because just look at this picture. This looks really, really cool. Thank you to Indo05 for providing the picture. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I like what they did with it. And apparently that was the major cluing in to the fact that we would be getting an 84 retool. So, yeah. Now, when it comes to NES Godzilla as a whole, as the one that I have in my collection, I love this little design. I love the NECA video game paint job that they gave him. I love the overly ridiculous dorsal fins. I love the fact that it wasn't the 84, 85 design that was in the NES game. But this is just a wild and vivid take on a Godzilla figure, and I'm going to put him in great. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, and I know I put the other two versions of this mold in decent and meh, but it's really the paint job and the aesthetic that this thing goes for that really has me saying it's a great figure. Plus, if I remember correctly, I think this was the first Godzilla figure from NECA that had, like, you know, the cool box, so that's another big plus for him as well. Now we're moving on to Godzilla 1989, Godzilla vs. Biollante, and I know there is a divide on this figure. People think it looks ugly. People think his eyes should have been a little bit black. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I really don't. Because you know what? I'm going to say high tier best. I think this is one of NECA's crowning achievements in their Godzilla line, and the fact that this and 03 were the last two figures we got for them hurt all the more because this felt like NECA was finally getting it. This felt like NECA was finally on their A game with Godzilla, and it breaks my heart. It really does. It breaks my friggin' heart, dude. Plus, NECA were nice enough to include a breath effect piece for him. And it amazes me that in both of the releases that SH Monster Arts decided to do, that he didn't come with anything like that. And as I said with 1956 Goji and NES Goji, I love me a wildly different paint job. Biollante Bile of this figure is just as good. Not too much was changed aside from the Nickelodeon slime that was applied to him. But when it comes between the two, I will always take the original over the Biollante Bile. But Biollante Bile's going in high tier great. Love it. Oh, mwah. Okay. Okay. Alright. 1994 and 1995 are easily some of NECA's weakest work. I don't own the reissue, so we can get this out of the way, and from the pictures that I have seen of both of these reissues, it seems like they did update the paint specifically more so on the dorsal fins, especially for 94, and that's really, really cool, and that makes me want to pick these up. Also the boxes. But when it comes to what I have in my collection, I love that Burning Godzilla is semi-translucent, but dear God, these could have been a lot better. This is one of those instances where, when it comes to that specific design, I would definitely say there is no contest between NECA and SH Monster Arts. My Rebirth Goji looks better than both of these figures combined, and then some. So that 94 and this Burning Godzilla are going to go in meh. I have left out Reactor Glow Goji. Since my last review of this figure, I finally did some figure surgery, and I improved on his inability to keep his head on, his arm on, and his tail. And now that I have finally fixed those and he actually stays together, my love for glow-in-the-dark features and bright neon greens is going to tick him up into a high tier decent. Had I not been able to fix this figure and all of his wares and falling apart quicker than a puzzle, he probably would have gone on low tier meh. GMK. Now when it comes to his reissue, I'll have it. I've heard that the reissue didn't fix too much. He's still got bubblegum chin and he's still got pink nails ever so often. Still don't understand why that's a thing. And I do not have the reissue of the GMK Atomic Blast figure either. I have seen that there are a few differences when it comes to the paint, the mixing of blues and how the blues were distributed and such. But again, I don't have it. So when it comes to standard GMK, I think he belongs in decent. But it's mostly the pink jaw and the pink nails that really has him in decent for me. You know, I can overlook the hunchback and I can overlook the snarl that some people seem to dislike. I don't know, I kind of dig it. But me personally, I don't think it's a meh figure at all. And when it comes to the Atomic Blast version of it, I would go as far to say that it's great. Mostly because it was a $25 repaint of a figure that came with an actual breath effect piece. Had to do it. Moving rather quickly into 2003. Oh man, this is a good figure. This is a very good figure. One of the things that I love about this figure the most is the tail. It is multi-segmented and the very tip of the tail is a bendy wire, and that to me is so cool because the hybrid method with this tail is honestly rather genius, because even when it comes to SH Monster Arts, few of their tail tips are kind of just solid pieces of plastic, and I really like that NECA utilized the new thing that they were doing and the older thing that they were doing and really just made it a very fluid figure. I like the fact that that thin tail tip was a bendy wire. I genuinely feel that is one of NECA's best decisions on this figure. That being said, the neck. Yeah, the neck is a soft rubber. Articulating it is perfectly fine, but it looks a little goofy. I still to this day do not know what was going on there in the ShinRobjira headcanon. Really think that NECA saw the backlash for the neck not being able to move because SH Monster Arts did it. And I think they might have actually gone back to the drawing board and planned to do something else, but this was also around the time that the rights were being relinquished, lost, given up, whatever, and we kind of just ended up with rubber necks for both of these figures. You know, that is a little bit on the upsetting side because I do feel NECA probably could have killed like that whole neck joint, but at the same time I think I would have been okay with a mostly not posable neck. I really don't know. I really can't say, but likewise, it's still a very, very good figure. This might net me some criticisms here, but I am going to put him at like top tier decent because I do in fact favor the Maser Blast version. I do. The hidden purples in there, the crazy yellows, the blue on the dorsal fin and everything. I just have a real soft spot for it, and since reviewing the figure, I have kind of gone on to just favor that version more, just because yet again, I'm a simp for the crazy colors, what you want me to say. Okay, now we're moving into the 2014 side of things. As we all know, Godzilla 2014 was NECA's very first soiree with Godzilla, and this being one of my very first NECA figures, second to the Deacon from their Prometheus line, I was very much impressed with what was present. Shortly thereafter, I would get the SH Monster Arts figure and still kind of just stick with NECA. More on that in Shamathon 4. Whenever it happens. But as compared to the V2 and the V3, which I have over here, I would definitely say that V1 Godzilla 2014 is the weakest, and I would put this at mid-tier decent, while the V3 version, I would definitely say goes right on up there as one of their best. The paint job is perfect. My copy had a couple issues with the dorsal fins and some splooches of paint, but I don't care. I paid 25 bucks for it. It's not like I lost $60, $70 on it. But moving on with the 2014 goodness, we have the big boy. And up until recently, mine was still working until I had to change the batteries and the sound no longer works. What the heck, NECA? I was gingerly as frick with this damn figure. And still the sound failed on me, but as a figure overall, this thing friggin' slaps. How this was perfectly okay, but a King Ghidorah wasn't, I don't know. Maybe NECA Godzilla stuff really wasn't selling as well as NECA Poke 2 or whatever, but I don't know. And you know, I'm not going to get into semantics here. It's easily one of their best figures. Tried and true. NECA's original Shin Godzilla figure was so much friggin' better than what we got. Now, I don't know what the official catalyst for all of this was, but I remember seeing this on Facebook, from NECA's Facebook, and thinking, fuck, this looks great. Like, y'all got my money right here, right now. But there were a lot of complaints that it was too beefy, the head was too big, the arms were too beefy, yada, yada, yada. So the figure was delayed, and they went back to the drawing board, and then we got what we eventually got. Me being the little hype baby that I was, once I got the final version of the first Shin Godzilla, I was excited overall because it was an articulated Shin Godzilla figure that I could own for not over $100, which absolutely went out the window because I ended up getting the reissue of Sham Shin anyway. But Proto Shin Godzilla, solely based on how it looks, I definitely say probably would have made this best list had it been released like that. Hey bro, you can say whatever you want about the sculpt, and you're totally in the right for saying that because it is not accurate at all, and that tail still... Oh, that friggin' tail! But I still think this Proto, in all the photos that still exist of it online, is way better than what we eventually got. 2 times over. That being said, my opinion on NECA Shin Godzilla has soured over the years. Paint-wise, it still kicks the crap out of SH Monster Arts in almost every single tier because the paint is properly distributed. If they were to properly paint Shin Godzilla, SH Monster Arts, and mold him in the right kind of plastic, vinyl, whatever have you, they would definitely have the definitive. But as of right now, NECA, they have the definitive paint job. Except for the Cheeto chunks on the tip of the tail. I don't know what's going on there. But Shin Godzilla, original release, is going to get a meh. Hold on. And his Atomic Breath variant is also going to get a meh. I got both of these figures directly from NECA at release. It's very possible I could have gotten like some of the first off the factory line. But, as some of you remember, our good friend Kaiju Dork actually sent me the reissues of both Shin and Atomic Blast Shin Godzilla. And to avoid any kind of spoilerinos, I am not going to say anything about these figures, I am just going to place them. Review coming soon. Alrighty, gather round. We are at the finale with NECA's Monsterverse releases, and I like the 2019 V1. I do. I really do wish I was able to find the fixed versions with the better teeth and the better eyes and the better upper posture. The pictures I have seen of them, they all look really good. Like, really, really good. But when it comes to the version that I have in my collection, 2019 is going to be high tier meh. Atomic Blueberry Sour Blast Godzilla, oh boy, is going to go right about here. High regards, very high regards. But when it comes to Burning Godzilla, this would have been my absolute favorite NECA 2019 Godzilla. But I don't know what they did with this paint, but the orange on the dorsal fins is flaky. I'm afraid to touch this thing. I kept it in a box for a year. I love that it's all translucent red. I love the crazy and inaccurate paint job. I mean, inaccurate. Who gives a crap if it's inaccurate or not? This is as accurate as it gets to me, personally. But that paint, that dorsal fin paint that flakes, it breaks my heart to do this. It really does. It really would have gone in best for me. And it would have topped Sour Blueberry Surprise Goji. So this guy is going to go... yeah, he'll be high tier decent. He really could have been better. Alright, now we're getting to Mothra and Rodan, and I don't mean to keep coming back to this, but NECA Mothra absolutely flaps SH Monster Arts Mothra and its burnt Snickers bar looking ass right across the face. I really don't care that SH Monster Arts Mothra is more posable. It looks terrible. Awful, but friggin' ugly. That and Rodan being $100 together? No. Just the fact that we got Mothra with a stand and she ended up coming out a lot nicer than I think a lot of people expected with NECA. Honestly, bro, I don't even give a crap. Both the Mothras are going to go up there in best as two of the very best NECA Godzilla-themed releases from the Godzilla line. Absolutely! And they both balance each other out with both really cool colors, translucent wings, and just really nice sculpts. When it comes to Rodan, I don't understand why we got 2 alternate heads. They could have very easily have made that mouth movable, but with how small the head is, maybe it just would have compromised how the heads looked and everything. But we got a base, we got an explosion, we got all that with Rodan, and he's actually somewhat accurate to the movie. He's got the lava trails on the backs of his wings, and I will take this Rodan over SH Monster Arts Rodan any day. I gotta let the people know. Yes, it's not as posable as SH Monster Arts Rodan, but I just personally think he looks a lot cooler and a lot less boring, so I'm going to put Rodan in mid-tier great. I think he's a great figure. I really, really do. And that's it, friends and neighbors. All the NECA Godzilla releases ranked for your eyeballs to enjoy. You can make your own one of these by clicking the link in the comment section down below. Toss up your results in the figures and merch channel on the ShinRobjira Discord server. Have a conversation with everybody. And until Friday, I will see you all then and there. As for what I'm going to do next in terms of a tier list, I don't know. I've been thinking about doing 2019 and 2020 releases from the Bandai Movie Monster series, but we'll see. We'll see what happens next. Hope you all enjoyed. See you all next time. Peace.